Hello everyone, I'm going to be presenting on CAS 265, which has to do with communicating deficiencies in internal control to those charged with governance and management. So the overall scope of CAS 265 acknowledges the auditor's responsibility to communicate to those charged with governance and management deficiencies in internal control. As we all know, it's the auditor's responsibility to gain an understanding of internal controls. And these deficiencies will come up during the audit of the financial statements. These deficiencies are also based off an auditor's professional judgment. Now, the effective date of CAS 265 was December 14th, 2010. And the overall objective of CAS 265 is the auditor must communicate to those charged with governance and management deficiencies that have come forth during the audit. These deficiencies must be of importance. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is considered of importance? Well, there are 5 requirements under CAS 265, and this is going to help determine what is of importance when an auditor finds a deficiency in internal control. So let's get into those 5 requirements. The first requirement under CAS 265 is identification of one or more deficiencies in internal control. Now, the auditor shall determine, based off audit work performed, if one or more deficiencies in internal controls has arisen. And once again, these deficiencies are based off an auditor's professional judgment. Now, once an auditor finds a deficiency in internal control, the auditor may discuss deficiencies with the appropriate level of management. During discussion with management, the auditor may obtain other relevant information, such as the management's understanding of internal controls. During this discussion, they may also find out exceptions for some of these deficiencies in internal controls. For example, if management is already aware of deficiencies in some of their internal controls. We can use an example such as a manager already knowing that their information technology is not stopping misstatements. This is all relevant information that can be found out through the management by a discussion. The second requirement under CAS 265 is if deficiencies have risen, the auditor must determine if they constitute significant deficiencies. Now, this goes back to our overall objective of CAS 265, where it states that deficiencies must be of importance. So what makes a deficiency a significant one? Well, a significant deficiency depends on whether a misstatement has already occurred and the likeliness that a misstatement could occur. We must also take into account the possible magnitude of the misstatement on the financial statements. Now, auditors may consider the following when determining a significant deficiency: the chances of the deficiency leading to a material misstatement, the likeliness of fraud occurring to the related asset or liability, and the importance of the control to the financial reporting process. Now, some indicators of significant deficiencies are not limited to, but include misstatements discovered by auditors that were not prevented, and evidence of ineffective responses to identified significant risks. Requirement number 3 under CAS 265 is communicate in writing. To elaborate, the auditor must communicate in writing significant deficiencies in internal controls that were found throughout the audit process. And this must be communicated to those charged with governance. And the writing must reflect the significance of the matters. And the level of detail is based off the auditor's professional judgment. Now, you may be asking yourself, when should this writing be sent? Well, this is going to be different for every entity. However, most entities are going to want to act upon these deficiencies. Therefore, the writing should be sent before the approval of the financial statements. And this writing will also be found in the final audit file. One thing we must note, if the auditor has communicated significant deficiencies in a previous audit, however, management still has not taken action, it is still the auditor's responsibility to report these deficiencies once again. The fourth requirement under CAS 265 is the auditor shall communicate to management at an appropriate level of responsibility on a timely basis. An appropriate level of management entails one that has the responsibility and the authority to evaluate the deficiency and take the necessary action. However, there may be instances where it isn't appropriate to report the deficiencies to management. This can be the case when there is evidence of fraud or intentional non-compliance with laws and regulations by management. In this case, it would not be appropriate to communicate the deficiencies to management. Furthermore, the auditor may find insignificant deficiencies during the audit process. This goes back to the overall objective of CAS 265, where deficiencies should be of importance. So during the audit process, if an auditor finds insignificant deficiencies, the auditor must use professional judgment to decide whether to report these to management. And this will be based off the likelihood of misstatement. The final requirement under CAS 265 is the requireds needed in the written communication of significant deficiencies. What will need to be included is the following. First off, a description of the deficiencies and a statement of potential effects. Next, sufficient information to allow those charged with governance and management to understand the context of communication. Specifically, the following. The purpose of the audit was for the auditor to express an opinion on the financial statements. The audit included consideration of internal controls relevant to the preparation of the financial statements. And finally, the issues reported are limited to those deficiencies that the auditor identified during the audit and concluded are of sufficient importance to those charged with governance. These are the requireds that need to be included in the written communication of significant deficiencies. And this concludes the 5 requirements under CAS 265 and concludes my presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed.